Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but that felt like a really short week to me. I mean, it felt like we only played them like a couple days ago, you know? Oh, it's Tuesday. So the midweek games are back then? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. My name is the Crimson Wolf, and welcome back to the Chelsea countdown for our Premier League game taking on Southampton. It is joint second in the league, taking on 20th in the league, and we are obviously the clear favourites to come out with 3 points, even if it is on the south coast at St Mary's. Just going to jump straight into this. Once again, I am still not feeling particularly brilliant, so this might be a bit of a shorter iteration of the Chelsea countdown. I do apologise for that, but I can't really put out long content while I am in this state, so I'm afraid it is going to have to be more reduced. With that being said, allow me to give you a quick overview of what to expect on the Chelsea countdown. Basically, I go through lineups, predictions, expectations, everything in between, and come to a conclusion of what I expect this game to look like. And as always, we do begin with the lineup. And starting in goal, I'm going to go with Robert Sanchez. There is a possibility we do see Philip Jorgensen, because we know what Maresca has been like with his rotating form in week games. So it is very possible we do see Jorgensen for this game. However, I do think it's unlikely, so I'm going to stick with Sanchez for this game. He had a decent game versus Villa. Like, he did nothing wrong in that game, made some quality saves. His distribution out from the back was pretty solid as well. So at the minute, I have no complaints with him starting. I do believe Jorgensen should be starting over him, but at the minute, I can't really say that Sanchez doesn't deserve it on the back of that Villa performance. I'm not going to say he was world class or anything, but he was vastly improved from his previous performances. So right now, I can live with it, basically. Moving into the back line, and I'm going to go with Malo Gusto to return to the side at right back. Benoit Badiashile partnering Levi Colwill in defence with Marc Cucurella at left back. Now, there is a couple variables in this team. Obviously, we don't know who is going to be the replacement for Wes Fofana, whether it's going to be Badiashile, whether it's going to be Tosin, whether it's going to be DSRC. We don't know. The likeliest scenario does appear to be Badiashile, based on the fact that he was the one that replaced Wes when he was subbed off with injury in the Villa game. He has played really well whenever we've seen him in the Premier League. Obviously, he played really well in the Leicester game. He played well coming off the bench versus Aston Villa and versus Liverpool. And he has had some good performances in the Conference League. However, he has also had some shaky ones. It is very possible we see someone like Tosin come into it. And Tosin has had good performances in the Conference. And he's had a few good performances when we have played him in the Premier League. DSRC, I think, is probably the least likely, because he's been given the least amount of game time in the Premier League out of every centre-back. So I think that is unlikely. So I'm going with Badiashile. I'm going with a return to the squad for Malo Gusto. Obviously, we didn't play a natural right back in the last game. We had Caicedo inverting into midfield from right back, which obviously worked pretty well. Maybe I think we see a return to the norm in this game, and I think we see Malo Gusto come back into the squad. Maybe we see Axel DSRC put it right back, and then we have Badiashile and Colwill as a back three, and then Cucurella is the one that inverts into midfield. That's very possible, and I wouldn't put it past Maresca to do that. However, I think it is just more likely we see Malo Gusto return to the squad. He also hasn't played really any substantial minutes in the past 2 games. He didn't play at all versus Leicester, and he didn't really have any significant amount of minutes versus Aston Villa. So I think it's likely we see Gusto start again. As for Colwill and Cucurella playing this close in proximity, they're not hugely injury-prone players, Cucurella especially. So I'd be very surprised if we did see them drop out of the squad. Levi has had his injury problems in the past, which leads me to believe he could be rotated out, but because this is a Premier League side and not a lower league side or a Conference League side, I'd be very surprised if Maresca sacrificed our entire first 11. I do think there will be other players that drop out of it, but I will be surprised if we see all of it rotated out. I don't think either of these two will. The midfield I'm going with is a pretty standard one of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo in the pivot, with Cole Palmer as the number 10. I'm dropping Romeo Lavia for this game because obviously he does have a pretty significant injury history. Obviously missed pretty much the entire season last year, missed a decent portion of the first bit of it this year. I'd be surprised if Maresca risked him playing most of the minutes versus Aston Villa. So I'm going to take him out of the squad, and we're going to have a standard pivot of Caicedo and Enzo, and Cole Palmer as your number 10, as per usual. Pretty much all we can expect from this is what we've been seeing recently. And hopefully Palmer, now with that performance versus Villa, is back to his usual self. I expect him to go and get a couple goal contributions in this game, I hope. Obviously, we have the resurgent form of Enzo Fernandez, who has been doing phenomenally. And obviously, someone pointed this out to me, which is that the big concern Maresca had with Enzo Fernandez is that he wasn't providing the physicality that Caicedo and Romeo Lavia provided in that midfield, which is why Lavia was preferred to Enzo for so long. However, now that Enzo seemed to have just upped his physicality quite a lot as well, it seems that he has just now played himself back into the squad. And for me, he's undroppable at the minute. He's obviously scored twice in the past 2 games. Wouldn't surprise me to see him get another goal in this game. I think that's very, very likely. And with any luck, it's another good performance. Caicedo will probably be the same Caicedo we've seen all season. Just covering as much ground as possible, making challenges all over the pitch, just putting in the tackles, pretty much everything. So I'd be surprised if we see anything from Caicedo other than that. And he's up against a pretty brittle midfield. Obviously, while I don't think he'd start anyway, he obviously is ineligible for this game. Leslie Ugachukwu on loan from us. He really needs to be utilised more by Southampton because he is actually a decent player, and I don't really think they're getting the best out of him. So I think they need to make greater use for him. Obviously, that can't start now because he is ineligible to play this game. So without him, I think their midfield's going to lack a lot, and up against these two, that's not really going to help them in any stretch of the imagination. So I think these two are just going to run riot over this game. And Cole Palmer, as I said, is going to be Cole Palmer at the end of the day. He's going to be the usual reliable self that he always is. So I'd imagine he probably goes and bags another goal, possibly another couple assists as well. Wouldn't surprise me. That is my midfield for this game. My front 3, and all of these 3 are going to be rotated from the Villa game, I do believe. So that is Neto, Sancho and Jackson all dropping out of the squad. And I'm replacing them with Noni Madueke, Mykhailo Mudryk and Christopher Nkunku. Now, I do admit I'm not completely convinced that all of them will drop out. Jackson specifically, I think, is probably the most likely to stay in the team. However, with how well Nkunku has been doing in the Conference League, I think he has warranted a start, and playing midweek and against Southampton, I think Maresca can afford to give it to him. I think Sancho and Neto, with their injury problems, will probably be rested for this game, and Noni Madueke is a surefire spot on the right wing. And as for the left wing, it could also be taken up by João Felix, and would not surprise me if it was. However, considering his performances in the Conference League, I think Mykhailo Mudryk has earned a spot in the squad. It would not surprise me to see Jackson start this game, especially considering the hot streak he's been on. But considering we are playing Spurs at the weekend, I'd be very surprised if Maresca takes huge amount of risk with this. And obviously, we know how important Jackson is going to be playing Spurs. He obviously loves a goal versus Spurs. He got 4 in his last 2 against them. So that is really impressive. We are going to need it for that game, as we will need Neto as well. So I would not be surprised to see him rested for this game at all. And Madueke obviously did bag the assist for Palmer's goal off the bench versus Villa. He's not been terrible this season. I do just think there has been room for improvement in this game. And honestly, I think he's probably alright to start this game. As I say, I think Mudryk has probably earned the start in this game, which is why I believe he is going to start instead of João Felix. And obviously Jadon Sancho. So I think that is probably quite necessary to how this sets up. I also just think this is a pretty low risk game, so we could afford to play a lot more of a heavier rotator side. Would not surprise me to see players like Tosin, Dizazi, Renato Vega coming to the side, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, maybe someone like Cesare Casadei coming to the squad, maybe even Mark Guiu. Would not surprise me to see those kind of players brought into this game. Southampton are a lot tougher than what we do face in these lower league cup games and in the Conference League, but at the end of the day, they are bottom of the Premier League, so it is a pretty low risk side, and it won't be fully rotated, so they will be playing with some of their tougher players in there. So your Cole Palmers, obviously I said Cucurella, Enzo, Caicedo, Colwill. So I do believe it should be more than enough to get the job done versus Southampton, while resting some of our more prominent players for the important game at the weekend versus Spurs. So I think this is more than likely a game we're going to win. So on that note, the score prediction I'm going to go for this game, I'm going to be a little bit ambitious with this. I'm going to say we're going to win 4-0. I know that's probably a bit ambitious, but we are absolutely on a tear right now. We are brilliant in away games. I believe only Liverpool have collected more points from away games than ourselves. And it's Southampton at the bottom of the league. They have a pretty weak defence. They can't really get their act together in attack. So that, in all honesty, does add up to me saying that we are going to win by a pretty substantial margin. So I'm going to say 4-0. As for the goal scorers, I'm going to go with a brace for Christopher Nkunku. I'm going to go with a goal for Mikhailo Mudryk. And I'll go for a goal for Cole Palmer as well. We should just be able to walk this pretty easily. Like, there's no danger in this game, really. It's Southampton. And let's also not forget, they're missing pretty much their 3 most important players in Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Flynn Downs, and Tyler Dibbling, all being out due to suspension. So without their 3 most prominent players in the squad, I'd be very surprised if they were able to put up any resistance to our team. We have one of the best attacks in the team. Our defence, albeit sans Wesley Fofana, has been getting a lot better. So it should be a pretty simple and effective performance. Hopefully we can rectify the double that Southampton did over us 2 years ago in the 22-23 season, which was just a really bad time for us. So hopefully we can go and rectify that. And with any luck, it'll be another pretty easy game for the Chelsea. With that being said, I'm going to end this episode of the Chelsea Countdown here. Thank you all very much for watching. I once again apologise that it was a shorter episode, but as I said, still not feeling too brilliant, not feeling too well at the minute. So it is unfortunately just going to have to be a little bit of a slimmed down version. But with that being said, I hope you all very much enjoyed. And I'm going to sign off by saying my name is the Crimson Wolf. I am the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet, and you have all, as per usual, been amazing. There will be a live stream for this game. I am once again watching this alone, so live stream will be up for this game tomorrow, as provided I get home from college in time, let's hope. But you have all been amazing as per usual, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with it.